Hi, I'm Chris Stead, technology editor at finder.com.au, and today I'm reviewing the Suunto 7 smartwatch. Now, Finnish outdoor tech specialists Suunto have reached into new territory with the Suunto 7. They have traditionally worked on GPS sports tracking watches, and this does have a lot of GPS sports tracking capabilities. But for the first time ever, they've rolled in the Wear OS operating system from Android and to add in some smartwatch capabilities. So is the Suunto 7 the perfect marriage of both sport and smart? Now, in terms of design, the Suunto 7 is a very beautiful watch. It really is quite nice to look at, despite being a little bit large. I'll talk about that in a second. But you're looking at a really nice, soft, comfortable strap, a really sturdy stainless steel case, Gorilla Glass over the top, which will give you that protection against cracking, although it's not sapphire, so you may get some scratches on it, which is a bit of a downturn from what the Suunto 9 offers. You're also looking at 4 buttons around the outside that allows you to operate it when you're moving or if you're wearing gloves. Obviously it's a sport watch, you could be wearing gloves, and that gives a lot of extra use when you're on the go. I love the heat map backdrop that comes on the default watch face. So that's a heat map of the surrounding area and where people tend to do their riding or their cycling or their swimming, what you choose. You can customize that between 15 different activities, and that gives you an idea of what's going on around you. It just looks really cool. I really like that feature as well. Now, it's quite sturdy, as mentioned. It will go down to 50 meters in the ocean. It's shockproof, it's dustproof. It comes in 5 colors. So on the design front, the Suunto 7 is a real winner. As mentioned, it is big though. Now, I'm a pretty large human. I'm 6'4", I'm 100 kilograms, and you can see the size of it just there on my wrist. It's pretty sized. It's got a 50 millimeter diameter. Now, I did get used to it quite quickly, like I barely can feel that I'm wearing it right now. However, if you're a smaller human being, in particular if you've got thin wrists, this could be a problem and something to think about. As I review the performance of this watch, I'm going to break it down into 2 categories, and that'll be for a reason, as you'll come to see. Now, we're going to look at the sports watch side of things first, and there's way too many features here for me to go through. If you have a look at the Suunto website, there's pages and pages of tracking information and different sports that you can track. There's over 70 sports in there that you can track, and you can download maps from wherever you are for use offline, or when you're online, just downloads it automatically as soon as you're plugged into a charging device. On top of that, however, it isn't quite as feature-rich as the Suunto 9 or even the Suunto 5. You lose out in a couple of the tracking features, and in particular of note, it doesn't connect to third-party peripherals such as like heart chest monitors, which is a bit annoying, and it doesn't track your sleep as well, which is a bit annoying as well. This is probably because of the smartwatch features that have come in. Obviously, we've had to lose a few of the sports watch functionality, so that's something to keep in mind as well. However, if you're a data lover, and I'm a data lover, it's really quite awesome. I found the steps slightly overestimated, not massively, but slightly overestimated. All the watches that I've tried out, all the different smartwatches do things very differently in that regard. I found the Withings Steel HR Sport to be the most accurate so far. And when compared to that, I found that this watch did overestimate the steps slightly. It took him maybe 50 or so steps over 1,000 steps. So not massive, but it does work out to a lot if you go on giant runs. Then again, it's for comparisons really, isn't it? So does it really matter if it overestimates? It's just as long as you're comparing it to the same watch every single day, you know how your fitness is going. The GPS tracking is on point, really impressed by that. The maps that come with the smartwatch that download to the smartwatch are really detailed. I love the contours and the altitude. It gives you a good idea of what's around you. As mentioned, the heat maps as well give you an idea of some of the routes that you can follow. And I found the GPS tracking to be very precise. You can set routes on the Suunto app as well that can then download to the watch, so you can follow a preset route that you've already put in, which is pretty cool. I did take this surfing. I do a lot of surfing, and I was really impressed with the tracking in the surf. When I looked back on it at the watch on the app later on, I could see exactly where I paddled out, where I got caught in the rips, even some of the waves that I caught. So very on point with the GPS tracking, very impressive from that regard. And diving into the data is a lot of fun too. You know, I love looking at that stuff personally. I was able to see like how fast I went on my fastest, biggest wave, stuff like that. So that kind of thing is really cool. What's not so great is that the tracking of all that information is separated into 3 separate spots. You've got stuff you can look at on your watch specifically, stuff in the Suunto app, and then stuff in Google Fit. And so it would really be nice if those were all kind of together in one place. You can share them on social, your results. You can connect to third-party tracking software online as well as an option. But really, for the future moving forward, this all needs to be together in one cohesive place so you can look at it and really dive in. Now, it's the smartwatch side of this Suunto 7 union where things begin to struggle a bit. This is the first time Suunto's ever incorporated the Wear OS Android operating system into one of its watches, and it does struggle. It really does struggle. As mentioned, some of the sports tracking features that we've seen in the Suunto 9 and Suunto 5 are missing. I'm assuming this is because they're crammed in the smartwatch features, so there's a bit of a loss there. But theoretically, on paper, there's a lot to gain. You've got Google Pay, so you can just swipe and pay with NFC support, obviously. Wi-Fi connectivity, so you can download maps and so forth. Google Play apps are available, so you can download the calendar, you can download weather, you can even look at Spotify. You can't actually really activate Spotify directly through the watch. You can just play and pause, but you can't play it through the watch. It plays off your phone or another device. And you can theoretically receive notifications, phone calls, that type of thing, social messages, all through your phone. There's also Google Assistant on the phone. However, I found this to be quite cumbersome because you have to go through a few menus to even get to the point of using your voice. And by that point, you might as well just looked it up somewhere else. Now, as mentioned, I did struggle to get all this stuff to harmonize in a perfect way. Spotify, for example, it would play sometimes, it wouldn't play other times, it would pause. I found the setup process to be really quite complicated and challenging. It kept disconnecting me. Even if I was just staying in my same home Wi-Fi, I would just lose Wi-Fi connections. My Google account would stop being synced correctly. The phone itself would not sync all of a sudden. I'd have to resync it. There's a lot of buttons, a lot of swiping going on. It's really challenging to remember what everything does, but you're getting used to the watch. And it was a frustrating process overall, just getting the things set up and working in a harmonized way. And as mentioned, I didn't even get a lot of the things working. In particular, I couldn't get the phone calls to come through. I couldn't get the notifications to come through from my watch. From my phone to the watch, even after I'd have everything synced perfectly and gone through the troubleshooting. So definitely there's some work that needs to be done there. You know, when it does work, it is fast and responsive, I'll give it that much. It just trips over itself too much. And furthermore, it does burn battery quite hectically. The first day that I was kind of using this, it didn't even get 24 hours out of the battery. Yes, I was testing it, I was playing with it a lot. The screen does have an always off mode, so it's off right now. For example, when I bring it up to my eyes like this, it comes on and it goes off again quickly, so you can just check things. It's doing its best to save the battery, but with all the smartwatch, with all the GPS tracking, with everything going on, realistically, you need to charge this every single night when you go to bed. And I guess it doesn't track sleep anyway, so that's not such a big issue, but is definitely a bit of a downer for me. I'd like to see it perform better from the battery side of things. The Suunto 7 sets a promising future for a smart sport watch, but at the moment it is a complicated marriage, and as a result it's difficult for me to recommend until there's been some really significant firmware updates. Now, for a full review of the Suunto 7, a full buyer's guide on how to buy a smartwatch and a comparison of all the smartwatches on the market, check out finder.com.au, and until next time, stay healthy.